Breakdowns.
Welcome back to the Chill Sounds and Breakdowns podcast. We have another episode for you. This is number
56.
56. Thank you, Bert. I'm telling you, this would fall apart without you, so I appreciate you being here. I'm excited. I'm getting my shit together, and this is a band that I've been trying to get on. Again, I'm getting organized. We're getting through some really cool bands, and I'm excited. But today we have Third and Delaware. We have Richie and Gamma. Is it?
Gamma. Yes, sir.
Yeah, how y'all doing today?
Doing good.
We're
doing
good,
great.
Yeah.
I'm laughing. I'm sad that we weren't recording before because we started talking. It was such a weird topic. But you guys are talking about writing songs and waiting for the hate to come on.
Yeah.
So what's surprising is we actually didn't get almost any hate. I think the worst thing was oh, hey, look, I didn't know Bobby Lee was in a metal band. So I'm that's it. That's no hate about the music, just making my race a thing. Okay, whatever. Hate is hate. But me and Gamma in particular were waiting for the hate.
I remember telling him, I think hate, it's a good thing to have because that means, regardless of what you do, once you get big enough, enough people's gonna see it, somebody's gonna hate it. Yeah. And so I was I just want to laugh at the band. So I'm I really hope somebody comes up with a good joke. And that's all we had. Is I was man, we're not. It's
oh, the internet.
I don't even think you know who Bobby Lee is, right?
No, yeah, the comedian or something.
Yeah. Some people were who's Bobby Lee? And I'm
I was damn, someone made a bird and people didn't get it. Damn.
Eventually, yeah.
But you're not wrong about that. No matter what you do, that's gonna your will get some hate. But that is normally it's a good sign that people are paying attention enough to hate it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I definitely understand when someone points out. We were talking about songs sounding like something else, or people saying they're ripoffs of all this stuff. And I told her I'm really bad about that. That I will immediately as soon as I'm listening to someone, I'm that's from this song. Yeah. And I'm I have the bad habit and be I need to tell them, because for me I'm they'd probably like that to hear that. And then as hearing that I'm no, that I want to make sure that people I'm not attacking you. I just find it very cool because I somewhere in the ether of influences it ended up in the song, you know what I mean? Because most of the times I always think it's not completely on purpose. It's just
there's only 12 notes in music.
You know what I mean? Yeah, so some of them are just gonna come together, you know, and
absolutely,
and it's stuff's gonna be similar. And then if you listen to influences, they dive in, and for me, I just find it cool. I'm I'm pretty sure they listen to that, so it's just fascinating for me because it helps me dig into musicians where they're listening to or coming from.
Yeah. I always found a little funny, or whenever musicians would be oh yeah, I found my inspiration on I watch movies. And I'm yeah, totally, but at the same time there's still it's still the music you're listening to is gonna come out, regardless. I've been writing some stuff for the band lately, and I'm not trying to sound like the band that I'm listening to. But it's I listened to them doing this and it sounded cool, so let me, maybe this version of that will be, oh, that would be sick. And then you hear it and I'm wow, that's actually kind of the same thing. You don't even want to do it, but it just comes out.
It just comes out. It's you can't really control especially if you start trying to figure out where this came from, where that came from. It's just gonna get so tedious that it's not writing music's not even gonna be fun, you know what I mean? You take again everything you listen to ends up in your writing at some way or another, you know what I mean? And I love that. I initially, I think when you start anything, the first step is to kind of emulate other bands. That's how when you initially start playing something, you're always oh, I'm gonna learn this song. That's how I'll learn to play guitar. Or that's how I'll learn to sing. I'll sing like this person, and you start finding your favorite ones. And then now, because when I started singing stuff, then I started hearing people be oh, you sound like this, and I'm oh, they definitely hear that because that's definitely what I was listening to, and it came out, and I know I was not ripping off, but I enjoyed that singing style so much that I'm like, yeah, I want to sing like that. Like, it's fucking cool. And then it takes a while to get like what your like style is. You know what I mean? Like, how are you going to discover that if you don't try a bunch? You know? And stuff just bleeds over. But I mean, it's fun writing music. The Third in Delaware, like, have you guys always had the same lineup for the most part? Or like,
so the newest member is Gama. He joined a little bit over
a year ago.
Yeah, a little bit over a year ago.
Nice.
We joined him. We used to have Josh Hall, who is in Hunt the Dinosaur now.
Yo, okay.
Yeah.
So he's bass for Hunt the Dinosaurs, but he was our drummer. He was our original drummer, and then he left to go to Hunt the Dinosaur, which no hate, like we love him. Yeah, and Hunt the Dinosaur is a big gig. So
Hunt the Dinosaur was sick.
Yeah,
it's pretty sick. But I was telling him whenever we were coming in, like, it's kind of funny that we're the ones doing it because like I'm the newest member and like. You know, you're
I'm relative,
one below,
two below, because I joined in 2018, and which is only like the band's only been a thing since 2017. So I joined. So the last vocalist was moved to California.
Oh, you're not the original vocalist.
No, I'm not the original vocalist.
Oh, I thought you were. Okay.
Yeah, there was one before me, Eric. His name's Eric, and he's a great vocalist. But yeah, he moved to California. So I knew the old drummer, the one after Josh, before Josh came back, but we had another drummer who's in a country band now. Okay. And so I knew him, and that's how. Yeah, shout out Ryan. Weathered Souls. I think they're going on tour.
Yeah, Weathered Souls. Yeah. They're pretty sick.
Yeah.
He's a pretty sick guy.
I always thought you were the original vocalist, but I've heard like y'all around for a while at like different shows, but like I think one of the. Not the most recent, but the most recent reintroduction to like I guess after maybe like the pandemic and all that shit.
Yeah, we pretty much took a break, and then once everything started getting together, we came back.
Yeah, I think it was like one of the emo nights or whatever.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And dude, I was so sick. I was just like, what the fuck? Your voice in particular is what caught me.
Thank
I'm
you.
like, that shit is powerful as fuck. I'm like,
Emo Night was a great show.
It was like it's a good energy, but it's a real like powerful like voice. Is that something like you model after? Or is that just like how you like your natural tone that came out? Or
I don't know. I think I listened to a lot of when I got into heavier music. Howard Jones, Killswitch Engage at the time. That was a big influence on me. So that whole End of Heartache and all that stuff was great. And so a lot of that kind of shaped me into, and I always liked like Johnny Craig, like that style of vocals that kind of everyone, I don't know if he started that style of like kind of boy bandy, kind of like, lots of rolls, lots of like emphasis on the pronunciation.
Yeah.
So
R&B, right?
Yeah, kind of like R&B. Yeah.
Yeah, to me that was so I think I would relatively came late into the game of like heavy music and stuff. I always needed like something to like a conduit, something to ease me into it. So I was like, I don't know if I can get with like super heavy music. So first was like stuff like A Day to Remember was like one of my first ones. I'm like, oh, okay, it's like poppy singing and then you still get like breakdown shit. Like, cool. But the one that captivated me into like what I wanted to sing like was like Johnny Craig's era of like Dance Gavin Dance and stuff like that. I'm like, I go, those two things shouldn't go together. Like this kid's singing all like real soulfully and stuff like that. Then they're doing like some wild shit over here. I'm like, I go, but it works. And I'm like, I was like, it was one of those things. I didn't know you could do that, like to combine like certain stuff. So as like I've gotten older, I've become like such a big fan of combining genres that don't like belong together and producing something like really cool. I'm like, so now I'm like, yeah, fuck rules. Like, just make whatever like you like what like as long as it sounds good.
Yeah, fuck rules. Have you listened to Sleep Token?
Yes. Literally, I have like really albums on the wall, but I cannot stop talking about them like to everybody. Ask Bert. Like I had him in the car. There's like a meme, and it's a Dahmer meme where he's like me to all my friends. And I'm showing like the video. Like, see, I'm like, that's literally how I had everybody like listening to him.
I feel for you, like for all the Sleep Token fans now, because now they're on the high bus and all that. But like for example, Revan, our guitarist, we had this running joke with him, like days without mentioning High Water by Sleep Token.
One of our guitarists loves Sleep Token.
He loves that song. He was like, "Have you ever listened to High Water by Sleep Token?" Like, yes, you told me like many times. Like, and he actually showed me the new songs like that they, because I heard something that Revan showed me, and I couldn't get into the butt rock ish vocals, so I'm like, the music's good, everything's good, but I just can't get into these type of vocals.
Yeah.
You know? But then he showed me this new song.
The Summoning. Yeah.
Summoning.
That's
bro.
a good song.
I heard the breakdown. I was like, damn. I was like, ooh.
It's still, I think it's still called, even like Sleep Token fans, I'll go, because it's I don't think they normally do like a traditional like breakdown like that, which is add a fucking like character.
Yeah.
So I was just even like, this is a lot heavy. I was like, what? I was like, and it's like the second song that released off of like the new album. So it's like, what is this album gonna fucking be? You know what I mean? And then that song is like 6 minutes long, and then the ending is just like out of fucking nowhere.
That ending will throw you off.
I love that ending. Man. I
My fucking face was like, ah! I was like, I think I made that sound out loud, and I was just like I was in my, like I was here, and I just turned it up all the way. I'm like, what the fuck just happened? I thought it skipped something or whatever. Like, I was like, bro, that is wild. Then like for the next like I don't know how many hours, I was just looking up like, I go, how are people reacting to this shit? So just like reaction videos, and I just kept skipping to that part. Everyone's like, oh, what the fuck? It's like, there's gonna be a lot of like metalhead babies born like this because it got all funky and sexy.
I love the comments. It's like, oh, 1 second it's gonna be like mosh pit, and then the next second it's gonna be like grinding. Dude, I want to go to a Sleep Token concert now.
See, that's why I don't mind them blowing up and stuff like that, because they're from the UK. So I'm like, if they blow up, that means they'll just come over here. Like, because like they've come over here, but always like supporting. I was like, I need them like to headline or something.
Yeah, I love. There's a band, Bleed From Within. They're finally getting over here. Yeah, they're opening for August Burns Red, I think.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So we're going on tour when they're in Texas, so we won't be.
Oh no.
So we'll be like in Tennessee or Louisiana or Mississippi.
Have y'all toured before?
We've done like a couple weekenders. Yeah.
You did an actual like 2 week.
Yeah, we did like a 10-day. Yeah, we did a 10-day in 2018 when I first joined, and then we did a 5-day I think last year, and then we're doing a 4-day this year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dope.
I don't call them tours. I'm like, I don't know. If you a tour, like, gotta be like longer than, I don't know, a week.
Longer than a week. Yeah, I think the 10-day would be the technical tour. It's longer than a week.
To me, you know, people will be like, "Oh, you going on tour?" And I'm like, "Not really. I'm just going out of town for like 3 days."
Nah,
you know?
like, yeah.
And then everybody just started calling it tour. So I'm like, "Yeah, we're going on tour, I guess." Like,
if you need to settle, we're going on a run.
Yeah.
Whatever. Like, that's the in between one. But I mean, same thing. I mean, you're still going out of like town to like play your music, and it's one thing. Like in the band that I was in, I never got to do it. I'm so like jealous of like people doing it, but because to me, what I've seen like more and more in like promoting bands and stuff like that, the word of mouth thing is the best way to fucking do it. Like you can do a lot of stuff like online and all these things. But you know, meeting people going to shows and like other places of towns and like having conversations are the ways like to stick around a little bit more with people.
The only reason we got the chance to do the 5-day in last July was because of one of the contacts we had from the 2018 10-day run that we had. Yeah, so it's just constant like keep in touch, and then, you know, trade shows, like like, hey, play a show, because they're from Fayetteville, Arkansas, and we're like, hey, we'll play Fayetteville, and then come to Dallas, we'll get, you know, we played Reno's, and so we got, then like they've never played like a real venue before. It's only been like house shows and like, you know, kind of
interesting.
So when they played Reno's, they were like, oh shit, this is awesome, this is like a real thing. And I'm like, yo, Reno's is like
You're never gonna let us go play.
Sorry, we're not shaming you, Reno's.
We love Reno's. We love Reno's.
Clean up a little. I'm just kidding. No, I don't want to say that, because like, dude, Dave fucking Deep Element's a whole nother like thing now, and it's not what it used to be. And I like go by, I'm like, man, like I used to like that. Like there was so many venues, there's so many like different shit. I like that. Like
Dada's gone now, right?
Dada's still there. Actually,
it's still there.
They just
okay.
But like Curtain Club is gone.
Curtain is gone. Yeah, I love
Curtain Club. Yeah. They had those two little, because it was like Curtain Club and Liquid Lounge, like the little tiny stage.
I love that mural that they did, like their final calendar before they made it a chicken place or whatever. Yeah.
We were walking by. Literally, we were walking by, like hanging flyers or something. Like me and my friend Brandy, and then we were like looked, and she just looked over and she's like, "Look how they massacred my boy." And I'm like, dude, for real. It's like I'm looking at all these places, and I'm like, oh, like it's a totally different feel. You know what I mean? I just went to like 2 shows yesterday. And just walking through, and I'm like, yeah, this is like just walking through like your fucking 7th Street out here, like any one of like those big like places now. That's like, it's a completely different group of people that's out there. It's not that grungy like punk like vibe we used to have. So it's a little sad. So yeah, stay as dirty as you want, Reno. I don't care. All right.
I was telling him before coming out, I'm like, it's funny how the Dallas scene is nowhere near Dallas. Like it's all around Dallas.
All around
like you gotta go to Denton, you gotta go to Arlington, you gotta come here to Fort Worth. But it's like in Dallas, it's just like the big shows, and then everything else just like sometimes there's a good show, but you know it's like, oh, you might have to go this venue. Oh no, we're moving it to Arlington because you know this venue this or that. So.
Yeah. So we've been, when we started like as NoiseROT trying to like do shows and stuff like that. I mean, primarily a bunch of us are from Fort Worth, and we're like, you know, let's just bring shit here, like as much as we can. Like I go, there's venue because like I was like I want to see that music scene that I like had here. You know what I mean? In like really like different venues and cool places. I was like, we got stuff that we can work with. I go, but it was just really about bringing it to the town where I grew up in because like I was speaking to somebody and you could tell like they were out of touch with like the scene that I thought like I go because I'm in it, I'm so close to it that I'm like, oh yeah, like these type of shows are like everywhere. Like I know I can name you like where shows are going on. But she was like, yeah, you know, it's all just like country stuff. I was like, there's tons of stuff everywhere. Like, but it's like and I looked at him like, oh, that's someone like on the outside of like the scene looking in. Yeah, that's all they see. Yeah, and I'm like, I go, no, like they offer like. Dude, we offer a variety of shit like in DFW.
Yeah, like they see the stock. They'll see the stockyards and then like trees and then that's about it.
And that's about it. Yeah. No, there's like so much more and so much like fucking music that you can listen to, all kinds. You know, like you can find some other stuff to be into, but yeah, and it's kind of what I like about the DFW area is that you're not really too far away from anything. You know what I mean? To like. Because that's why I consider like that whole like our local scene, that the DFW, you know, Denton and all that stuff, and going because like it's you pretty much can go like to and have a bunch of venues and different because I love like Andy's in Denton are just cool, like you know the killer shows that happen out there. Yeah, you know out here we've been like messing with the Post a lot, you know.
Okay.
I've been seeing that at the Post. I've never been there.
We get a lot of it's weird. It shouldn't, you know. It's if you look at it from the outside, it looks like this little like. You know, bougie restaurant. It's like a bar and stuff, and singer-songwriter night type of stuff. But then we had like heavy Lolo play like there. Wow. You know what I mean? Like, and we've had like a bunch of like hardcore shows and heavier shows. We had our like the festival we do, Chill Sounds and Breakdowns. We had it there, you know, and they put a lot more like faith in us to like, so we have more flexibility there. But there's stuff like that, like bigger venues, Haltom Theater, stuff like, you know, there's stuff around here that you can like work with and be able to work with like bands and give them like the right like. You know, setting to play shows. You know, because it's such a live shows are just something that people you can't take that feeling away. Man. It's so fun to be at them, to play them. Like I'm sure you like y'all like firsthand like have that like experience like even because you've definitely kept quite active like the past year.
Yeah. Been very active. Gama's been running our social media a lot because we're old men. We don't know
taking credit, bro.
Twitter.
Instagram. I didn't use Instagram before I came in, but I was like,
we do Facebook. That's about it. And then
I will say this: whoever listens to this. Like, get your game on Instagram, bro. Like, everybody talks about, like, go to TikTok, go to Facebook ads, all that. Like, no. Go to Instagram because Facebook, for one, like, it's always been like, oh, Facebook's gonna die. And I'm like, well, it's kind of still there, you know. Yeah. But, you know, I mean, don't completely not use it. Yeah. It's everything is a tool. So, like, still go to TikTok, still go to Instagram, and still go to Facebook, all that. But I think that Instagram should be your focus, especially because you can share quick and like it's like a mix of Facebook with TikTok, you know, but you can like Facebook, it's a little for different crowd of what, you know, like for example, for what we do, it's a little for different crowd sometimes, and we still use it a lot because they do support us there too. Yeah. But I was like, yo, we gotta go to Instagram because like people coming here from places like, you know, hashtags or now they're introducing reels, so like you gotta push through there, you know. Yeah. And the algorithm, like if the algorithm likes you, like our last video, we released the schemas, and I was stuck at like 450 followers. I was like, what do I do? You know, what do I need to do? I'm like, do I put content like, you know, recording us doing something, whatever. We recorded this music video and we put out a clip of it saying like, yo, it came out, put it out, and 1,000 followers. So
we tripled our Instagram in like a month.
It literally just moved it, and I'm like, bro, just quality content in, you know. Like,
I think it's just, you have to figure out what works like for you, like particularly. And it's a weird. Social media is a weird game. Like there's so much you have to look at. It's completely always updating, understanding the algorithm. Even people who are like our experts are not like can't understand it always because it's always shifting. What I know gets pushed is consistency. Like so, as long as you're posting like and making stuff, and then finding what's the most genuine content that you can put out that makes sense for you. You know what I mean? Because I've seen like, you know, bands or brands or anything like take like, oh, okay, we're just going to do like the trend stuff that's coming out and it works temporarily, but there's no actual content that I would refer back to.
Yeah, there's no
like, I'm not going to come back to the page because it's just you doing a trend on it. Like, what are you producing like original? And like with musicians, like you have your music. So what all can you build off of that? So you're stuck like studio sessions, like little clips of that stuff, clips of music, I think work pretty well.
And the thing is like, they're not, I mean, we in general, honestly, because I include myself in this category, we're not the best at like, you know, we see a funny video on TikTok and I'm like, oh, we should do that our version. You know, like you'll see, I don't know, some clip and like they're talking like, yo, guess who's like the guitarist? And they like, we all play guitar. I'm like, bro, that's kind of like, it's cool, but you're just doing what everybody else is doing.
And then, because you start flipping, I'm like, oh, everybody's doing this.
Yeah, like I've seen this before. Like, keep it moving.
And, but look at like Bad Omens though. Like everyone's lip syncing Just Pretend, and they sold out their tour. I couldn't see. Dayseeker's my favorite band, and I miss them because they were playing upstairs when we were playing emo night.
No. Yeah, they were doing that. Yeah, they did the Loft, whatever.
Yeah, they played the Loft. They played it literally the day we played emo night, and I bought VIP tickets. I'm like, yo, this is my favorite band. So I snuck up there, saw Caskets. I love Caskets. But like all those bands, Holding Absence, Thornhill, Dayseeker, Caskets are like 4 of my favorite bands like right now. Like, period. And I'm like, we're playing downstairs. I'm like, damn it. And then I couldn't go to the Bad Omens show because they Just Pretend blew up on TikTok. Everyone's lip syncing the chorus, and they sold out the entire tour, and I couldn't see and Make Them Suffer was on it, Dayseeker's on it. I was like, man,
Dayseeker is one of my favorite stories in music of just like how they've progressed over time, and just like the perfect example of like progress with what you're like making and make your music like what you want. And they kept figuring out a sound because I think I was introduced to them from like the Origins album, and it was like a lot heavier stuff like heavier. Back then. Then they're like, you know, transition a little bit like different because it was Origins and it was after Origins, was that the I can't remember, but I saw them like going back to like, oh, they're writing a little bit like it's still heavy, a lot more catchier shit. Then like the Sleep Talk album came out, and I'm like, I go, this fucking album, like it's so fantastic. And then with the new one, I'm like, dude, they're just going and they're fucking killing it. Like, and I was mad because we played with them once when we played, and I forgot what album was out at the time. But I'm like, they're not getting. I was so mad. I was like, they're not getting the recognition they deserve. I was like, you know, Rory is like one of like the singers that I look at. I'm like, this guy is like not human. Like, how the fuck are you singing and like screaming and doing like the yells like all at once? And I'm like, I was there front like row like seeing you because this was like. They were playing venues like they played like the Dirty 30. Do you remember the Dirty 30?
I never played there, but I remember it.
Yeah, it's a small room. It's it's not there anymore. Like it was. The venue had so much potential, but yeah, I was there. Like I'm like, I need to see if he like hits these notes. Like I'm just like listening. I'm like, dude, he's doing them all. And I'm like, I was like, man, you know what? People like that should not be allowed to be that good. Like I was like, it's not fair. Like what the fuck? You gotta pick one or the other.
Those experiences are crazy because like that happened to me with Lorna Shore. Like,
oh really?
I'm not.
You don't even like deathcore.
I don't like deathcore, but I love Lorna Shore. And I remember somebody showed me To the Hellfire once, and you know that crazy breakdown at the end, the whole like or whatever. And we have we had the joke of like, oh, don't use triggers, you know, whatever. Or at least me, I'm like, no, don't use triggers, like go for it, you know, just do it like that. So when I heard that, I was like, man, they just programmed it, like they're not even doing that, you know. It's just deathcore, you know, whatever. And so I saw them at So What, and they were playing. I think they were playing another song, and then I was like, I need to see this live. You know, I need to go see this live. So they were playing some other song, and there comes this crazy part with like crazy double kicks, and he messed up like one. Like he messed up one on the entire song, and when he messed it up, I was like, yo. He's playing it. I'm like, oh my God. Like, I just made it like, oh my God, this dude is playing all this stuff. And then, you know, perfect show, just one missed note. And that missed note for me was like, he's playing all this, and since then I love Lorna Shore.
Full disclosure, Lorna Shore's drummer, get in his DMs.
Yo,
he wants
Austin, he's best looking drummer out there for sure. I'm straight, but Austin, you can hit me up, bro.
Don't make me act. Austin, I make me act up. No. Those are. I think those are like nice moments to see like people like at that level like still like trip up a little bit, but even like more so being like, oh, they're doing that shit for real. Like,
just be human, but be a like insane human. Like,
I've had I do that a lot. I do that a lot with like I used to do a lot more with like vocalists and being like, but you ain't doing this shit live. You know what I mean? And then like showing up and like them doing it, I'm like, all right, I'll shut the fuck up, I guess. You know, And then I've also just had like new bands that I'll catch off guard and hear them do stuff like that. I'm like, what the fuck? And I have that experience a lot where I'm like, I enjoy like the live performance way more than I do like the record and stuff like that. But I think it's because in a live performance, it's not only like them performing, but that energy you're out like there. So it's there's no replicating like that, like on an album. Like you do the best, but
and even the tonality of things, like for example, Nine Inch Nails is one of my favorite bands, but I prefer listening to them live than I prefer listening to the album. Yeah, because the album is like the song is great, but then you listen like, you know, with drums and like you hear people like shouting back the lyrics and like you hear the energy of the vocals like pushing back, you know, and stuff like that. You hear the struggle like coming in, but he's still like doing it good. It just brings a different level of like, yo, this is so
sad, the last one last show I saw where I was completely like enthralled by that energy was you guys know a band called Bill Murray?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So Bill Murray, like I know they're so like, I mean, it's so good, and I went and I'm like, I've never seen them live, so I was like, okay, like I'll go. And it's like Trees was sold out, and I like bought my ticket I think the day before, and it was and it like it's sold out right away. I'm like, okay, so we go. The room's fucking crowded. Everybody knows all the words, and then like he's really good at getting the crowd to participate, and it was always like little like dumb shit, and he's like when I count to three say fuck, and then like the crowd's just like a roar of like fuck. I'm like, oh my god. And like that was so weird because like it's a concept that I like, but because the songs are depressing as hell, the lyrics are, I go, but it's the funnest show I've been to in like so long.
A friend of mine, great. He loves Bill Murray, and he invited me to go to that show, but I think on the same week, that was the same week where Royal Coda came in. And so I was like, yo, I already spent money on that one, so I'm gonna have to pass on this one. And then he sent me videos of it. I'm like, I went to
both of those that week.
They both at Trees, right?
Yeah, they're both at Trees, and I'm like, I ended up at Trees twice this week. You know?
I do regret not going to that one.
It blew me away. I was just like, dude, that's insane. Like it brings back like that's what shows are, and then, like the story of like how like it just started off as like damn meme band. Like there's so many like little like records and stuff that he was putting out, just music after music.
He has like 12 albums out.
Yeah, it's a shit ton of music. I went and listened to like all of them after like the show. Like, and I'm like, in all of these, there's at least a few songs that I like. You know what I mean? Like none of it's bad.
Yeah, they're all pretty good.
But it just relates back to the content of like writing shit that you want to write, you know what I mean? Like, and the concept of like, oh yeah, right, well, music should be like fun, you know what I mean? To like write the whole process like should be fun. And it's like, I always bring this up, but it's like it's one of the most basic like things that should be like known, but sometimes in bands, I get to like from personal experience, it got to a point where like we were writing music and I'm like, dude, we don't even enjoy like playing this. Like, why are we like writing this stuff or playing it? And if you like really go into like yourself and like write stuff that you want to write, like, and enjoy playing it, it just makes every like bit of that step like better. And then people see that on stage, like when you're playing on stage, they're like, oh, they're having a good time. Like it makes them like want to like reciprocate the energy. I run that into a lot in like hardcore shows. Like I've been like not in the community so long. Shows. Yeah, I just started like getting like more into like going to some, and I'm like, bro, this energy is wild. Hey, like man. In those, you know, I went to Texas Death Fest with like nice. I Am and Melissa and. We went, and it was just absolutely insane. People doing like flips off the stage.
Dude, yeah, like hardcore shows here in Dallas have to be some of the best live shows ever. Yeah, like I love going to house shows here. I keep inviting him. I'm like, bro, you gotta come to one.
You never tell me whenever they're happening.
I go to so many because it's the same bands all the time, but it's like it's just they're great. Yeah, and the crowd is just so into it. So you're just like, I'll go and mosh too. Yeah,
that community is so because like I saw Ballista like twice in 1 week for like shows that we had booked.
Yeah.
And then one was a Tuesday and one was a Thursday, and they were packed the fuck out both days. And I'm like, this is crazy. But my thing, and I was like, how do we do that with every one of these fucking shows? Like, I want to build like that community with like whatever genre we're throwing. Like, I want to make sure like the same type of energy, like, and people build and like go see and stuff like that. With y'all's writing, how do you guys normally approach that?
So one of our guitarists will have an idea, and then we just basically build an entire song off of like a riff that one of our guitarists wrote, and then our bassist is kind of like quality assurance, so he'll kind of mess around with things here and there, change like the main melody of the lead or something. All the lyrics is me, all the melodies is me, and then Gama just puts in his parts.
The Gama. Gama that shit up.
I can do the Gama, bro.
And then lately, your song that's gonna come out relative. I want to push your song like to the front at least after.
I don't know. At some point, like I just started writing because I can play guitar too, but I don't want to do it live because I'm too perfectionist for that. Like I'm like, no, I'm gonna mess it up, and I don't want to stick to the drums, you know. But I just wrote like sometimes we'll start with an idea and then I'll send it and then they'll be like, it's cool. But they'll just say that and I'm like, you know what, let me actually make this into a song.
Yeah.
Send it back and then they'll be like, we should actually, push this out there.
Once I add vocals, they're like, oh shit, let's do the song. Because I put a verse and a chorus on your song and everyone's on board now.
Yeah. I think the magic on the band is really him because, like, for example, he showed me my favorite song that they wrote, actually. I wasn't even in the band. It's called Roads in Antarctica.
Okay.
And they wrote it and I heard it. I was like, wow, this is really good. And I'm not a lyric guy at all. Like, I barely ever, pay attention to what the lyrics is saying. And that song, I heard him, and I was like, it's pretty cool. It's talking about, like, being cold and, like, Antarctica and all that. And then he explained to me the lyrics is about, like, like a metaphor of death.
Yeah, it's a metaphor of death. So, like, you're kind of lost.
Yeah. And the entire song, the entirety of the lyrics is all a metaphor of that. And I was like...
And at the end, you die.
This is genius. Yeah. Like, and so, like... The vocal part and the lyric part, I think, because metalcore now is very, I don't want to say cookie cutter because it's not, but it can get repetitive, at times. And so I think it comes down a lot, what the vocalist is doing most of the time, because I can do the craziest feel ever, or we can come up with the craziest riff and whatever, and it'll be cool, but then it's like, what are you gonna grab the listener then after that? It's like what you were saying with the TikTok, you have this trend and you do it and it's like, haha, funny, what else,
Yeah.
And so it's like I can come up with the craziest drum part and the craziest guitar part, but if after that I don't have anything, I mean, the common listener is not out there like, I just came here to listen to the drum fills. Like, they want to grab onto the lyric, they grab onto the melodies, and so he's just great at that. That's why I think that he's really like, oh, you're the one that makes this all come down and be like, yeah, this is great.
In lyric writing and content writing, how do you like the content of the song? How do you go about like picking your subject matter? I know you pick some really like emotional, passionate subject matters. For example, like the Emo Night show, I remember like you prefacing one of the songs and like it was talking about kind of like like suicide and stuff like that, and which is like a really like heavy topic and really like emotional, which is that kind of how you gravitate towards like subject matter?
Yeah, it's a big thing that I gravitate towards. I think one of the main reasons is because I like all the instruments being written before I do anything vocal wise, and I know a lot of the band doesn't like that, but I think it allows me to pretty much put together the best story lyric wise. So I hear like one of our main writers, our guitarist, he makes a lot of ambient stuff, and then he couples it with like very dissonant breakdowns, and then our other guitarist does most of the riffs, and then and the choruses, and then I just kind of piece everything together, and I find a central theme off of like what I think that song should be about lyrically, and then I just kind of write, really just look at rhymes and just write about, you know, whatever the song makes me feel.
Yeah. I didn't know how common that practice was until, because I when I was writing music, I was like, oh, this is like really cool, but I always thought it sounded really corny as hell when I would tell people. It'd be like, it's like, you know, like, it's like the song kind of tells you what it's about. Like, I don't know if that makes sense. And then like, people who didn't write music, it didn't make sense to. But I've, like, the more I've talked to like more like musicians and stuff, like, yeah, like there's a feeling like you get like when you're listening to like these parts, especially like when you're writing, like you're listening to these like on loop, and it's like memorizing these parts, like, you know, where it dips and comes down and everything. So there's certain parts, this part makes you feel this, and like for me, like it was always like a word would come out and I'm like, why the fuck did that word come out? Like, it'd be like whatever random word, and I'm like, let me figure out what the subject needs to be off of that.
I'm not one of the writers with like a book of like poems and then I try to fit the poem into an instrumental. I'm not that writer at all. I really like to have the part, like everything done, and then like maybe not backings, but like the riff and then the overall feel of the drums, and then bass or not, like mainly just the riff and the drums, so the guitars and the drums, and then I can get and then I can get everything else off of that, and then we well, either lately you've been doing our backings, but we used to have Mystique do our backings. If you remember Mystique, she like got huge a few years ago doing like putting backings to like Slaughter to Prevail and like really heavy deathcore stuff.
I don't remember that.
Oh, really? Yeah. So Mystique, MISSTIQ, and then we hit her up and it's like, hey, you want to do some soft boy band metalcore backings? And she's like, hell yeah. All right. So we've been working with her a little bit here and there, and it's either that doing the backings or Gamma doing the backings. You learn a lot being in a band that's as serious as we are, because like, I know how to program lights now. You've seen our light show. Yeah.
It's so him. It's crazy because it takes forever to do that.
It takes it's not dispositions. I don't know how they do it. Oh my god.
Dude, Jameson does all that.
And
dude, he's so fucking
so good.
Like, I didn't even know that. I'm like, I go, and then they told me, it's like, oh, because he also like rig it for like other bands, and I remember we had a band called Satan Blonde play like one of our shows, and the lights were there, and I was like, Jameson, what the fuck are you doing here? And he's like, oh, I'm doing the lights for them. I'm like, oh, and I looked at it and I'm like, what the fuck? Like, they're all like, great, like it's real intricate, and like before, I remember they had the fucking the flame boxes like before they got.
They told me about those. They said they got to use it once.
Use it once.
Yeah, they used it once and it got stolen. Ethan was really sad about that.
It's like, people were pieces of shit, man. I was like, come on. But it was so sick, and I'm like, bro, because I was standing there front row, and I'm like, oh, I feel that heat, dude. I can't imagine like being on stage, and I would be scared as fuck. But it was all like programmed to everything. Like, they're really good at it. The lights are very frustrating it a bit to learn them first.
Yeah, to learn.
Because we did lights for a bit, but we just did like straight up just light bars, like as easy, and then like just to get it going, we're like, it took hours on end for us to figure it out, and then like we would freak out because it was the first time we were using. We thought it'd be easy because we were the first time we were using like backtracks and stuff. I'm like, we can program it to the backtracks. We don't have to worry about that shit. And I think there was like maybe like a handful of shows where they worked, and everything else, one thing didn't work or the other. And I was the one to like panic mid stage. I'm like, fuck it, I'll do it live. You know what I mean? Like I had the lights, so sometimes the lights would work and no backtracks and stuff. Backtracks so there would be like shit that's programmed to backtracks, and like the lights are just flickering, and people are like, what's supposed to be going on here? It's like, there's supposed to be a piano here.
Dude, but it's a commitment having lights, because for one, the price, like the light industry is so expensive for some reason.
Lighting is a scam, dude.
Lighting
is a scam for real, because just like the truss and the bass was like $300 each. Yeah,
that's not even the light. That's where you put the light.
That's where you put the light.
If I tell you, yo, this part right here is like $500 without the mic.
No mic. We went to like a professional lighting place. We wanted to do our shit right, and so we like sought professional like help and quotes and stuff. And then I saw one of the things that they stored something on, and it was just a bass and a pole sticking up. And I was like, let's just make that. So if you've seen our lighting rig, it's literally a wooden it's a wooden like base.
It's a base.
Yeah.
It's literally a flat wooden base.
And then like a little
the
little screw that the pole screws onto, and then we just clamp the lights right onto the pole. And
Fuck
it's
yeah,
forward.
it works,
Yeah,
man.
and it works.
DIY, man.
It's but I mean, what I mean by like the commitment also is like whenever we play the show, we have to worry about like, you know, because you have to load in,
There's
load
so many,
out.
so many things that can
So
go
many
wrong.
things. Like
Yeah.
I wish it could just be like, hey, you get the likes. You put them on, then you're out. But like, you have to deal with cables. You have to deal with programming.
Yeah.
I have a bag full of cables. That I bring
Yeah,
in
he
every
really
show.
just
Yeah.
throw them, and there's like a military bag, bro.
Yeah,
It's insane. So you have to worry about money, time, like everything. But I think, you know,
It adds so much. It sets
It
us
adds so
apart.
much, yeah.
It's something that definitely makes us like one of the this is the band with the
yeah,
lights.
that's the band with the lights.
Yeah,
Even if they don't
yeah.
remember the music, they'll remember,
the lights.
I think it's just another thing that just shows like the amount of effort you're putting into like your band and like your music and your performance. Because like the live performance is like the more things you can add to it to add on top of like, you know, the music that you've already like put in work and like written to. There's already shows. So there's just, I think from an audience standpoint, and I think from me just like, you know, being a musician and all that stuff, I know like, oh, like that takes, I know like loading in all that shit, programming that, you know, it's a big deal, you know. So if you out there and see Third and Delaware, like they're working their ass off like with these lights.
You
but
know.
yeah, that was my thing, because I was like, as a vocalist, like I would always just show up, but like when we got lights, I was the light guy. So like that's
exactly what happened to me.
So I'm like,
bro, I got the drums.
I think there's a video. I'm like, I used to just show up to these things and like maybe help load out. Like, nah, I gotta carry my own shit. I hate it.
But you know, like for example, I love the production side of things on music and artistic production. Like I love seeing shows on YouTube like the 1975 or like 21 Pilots, where it's like they're putting in more than just the music.
Yeah.
Like you'll see a show like the Dillinger Escape Plan, and these guys is literally just go and play. Like you don't have to, you're not looking at anything else other than the music and the guy that's about to hit you. You know, like you don't have to worry about too much. But then you go to see a show like that, like 1975, and like it's a show where instead of movement, it's more like watching and like feeling, you know. And so they put a lot of effort into how the stage looks, how, you know, the screening and all that. And so to me, I'm like, I wish I could do that right now, but it's like, let's just stick to the lights for a minute, you know.
We're gonna be like,
time.
we're gonna be MGK and have the helicopter like rotate around the stage.
Yeah, but I'm like, dude, I would love to just have the budget to do stuff like that. Well, you know, because I'm like, yeah, it's crazy the whole helicopter thing, but it's like, I would totally would like to come up with something
cool
like
shit.
that. Yeah, like, let's put a drum set in the middle of the crowd. Like, why not? You know,
That's
something
it, like the 21 Pilots thing where they had like people
where they
hold up
would
the thing.
hold
I was
them.
like, that was
yeah, that's cool.
It was weird. Like one of my friends invited me to one of like their shows, and I'm like, I never thought I'd like end up like I listened to them, but I'm like, I never thought about going to a show.
Yeah.
And she was going, and I'm like, fuck it, I'll go. And I'm like, this is a really fucking good show.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And
Like
just
the
two
production
guys.
wise.
Yeah,
It's two guys. Yeah.
Two guys.
I remember like I saw Childish Gambino years ago, but they dropped like I think it was like one of the first times they were doing like when they would do projector stuff, like to do a background, an integrated background, and they would run like storylines in front of it, and like the background would interact with like whatever. I'm like, this shit's cool. Like, and just like things like that, it's just an extra effort like to like shows. And it's again when a live performance, when you can, obviously, like it's money, you know what I mean? So it's not like it's the easiest thing to come by.
It's like it's a commitment.
Like,
to
yeah,
it,
it's not like someone can come and it's like, why don't you do shit like that? It's like, because that takes money. Like, you know?
And I mean, you also have to think about like, for example, there's been some bands that ask us how to do it. You know, like, oh, they're like thing. I'm like, oh, well, you got to use a click. And like, oh, but we don't want to play to a click. And I'm like, well, you can do it.
You can't
Like,
do it.
You can't do it. Yeah.
Unless you have someone doing that
unless
shit
you have
live,
somebody
you
doing it
hire
for
somebody.
you,
But
And that means they have to learn the song. They have to learn how to work the lights.
yeah,
They're
they're basically another member to your band.
they're a member of the band.
Yeah.
So you can have a DMX controller to do whatever you're doing, like strobe on the breakdowns, flash on the chorus, whatever. And
dude, have you seen the one from Meshuggah? It's insane.
No.
Like the dude is playing everything like with the band. I'm like, that's a member of the band. Like
Yeah.
he's doing
He's doing it
everything.
live?
Yeah,
Oh.
like doing likes live. Yeah, there's some videos on YouTube and like it's insane. The comments like, yo, this is like the Meshuggah guy for likes. Like it's insane.
Yeah, like that's really hard, man. Like to do that shit. Like, I mean, yeah, it would take you practicing those songs, you know, and everything.
Essentially, you have to know the song.
Yeah, you have to know the
You
song,
have
know
to
the
be a
parts, know the
member.
lights. Yeah.
But again, commitment. You know, what do you want out of your live show? Because I've heard of other bands that are like, oh, we just it's all about the music, like no, you know, no gimmicks, no nothing. And I'm like, I mean, yeah, if you want to go that route, it's totally valid. But the way I see it, I don't know, I've always gravitated to like more than just the music side. Because I'm like, if I wanted to just listen to the music, like I just stay home and listen to the studio, you know. But like going to a live show is just like, it's either the interaction you have with the crowd and you know the musicians, but it's also like, yo, they have nice light, like this is pretty sick.
Again, it's just like really cool thing. It's like a cherry on top to these performances. It just like makes it like really memorable and stuff. Like I forgot what I was randomly watching. I think I was listening to Tame Impala earlier, and I'm like, what does that show look like? And I like looked up a few videos, and I'm like, oh, this shit looks nuts. Like, I'm like, oh, okay, like this is crazy. And I'm like, okay, but and then you know, there's like those bands where you can listen to them, and they're just a band, and you're like, okay, like I'm cool with this. But yeah, those extra things are just like really nice to like.
It adds so much. Like I went to see Tool live, and like, you know, everybody talks about, oh, Tool this, Tool that, whatever. So I went to see them live, and like to this day is one of the best shows ever because of the production. You know, because the music is already good, but like then you see the screens and like how everything moves and how the show is pieced together rather than just like here's just songs. You know,
yeah, it's a true experience.
But I think you'll remember it. Yeah,
there's like I think it goes both ways because like. I think it depends a lot on genre because I think metalcore is a big, like, it's basically pop. So in pop, there's always some kind of, like, not necessarily gimmick, but there's always, like, this little, that cherry on top kind of stuff. But, like, it just reminds me of what Isak said. And he's just like, oh, no, we just play, dude. Fuck the click. I got an 808 rigged on my pedal board, and I just hit it when we do a breakdown, bro. It's right here, and I rigged it.
I will say this.
I didn't know that's how you do it.
Yeah, that's how they do the 808s. He just steps on his pedal board, and I'm like, dude, that's like, so DIY. I love it.
But and I would say that, like, that's another thing, like, that's what I mean by different routes. It's like, for example, you see us and you might get impressed by the likes, but I'm like, but I see Instinct and I get impressed that they're running no tracks. Yeah. It's all them. Like, they have no tracks, no clicks, nothing. It's that's like crazy. They have interludes. I didn't know that. They have bass drops. They have like stuff that we have, but we use a click to do that. And we
backtrack it.
And so to me, it's like you can either, you know, you can go this way, and it's not like if you don't have likes, it's not gonna be impressive. Like no, bro, you can do crazy stuff like that. Like, you know what? I'm gonna do the bass drop. I don't need no click.
It's like we don't need to rig a bass drop. I'm just gonna step on my thing. I love that when we played with them. It was so funny.
I had no clue that that's what they did.
Because it was like the first time he did it. He was like, yeah, dude, it worked. And it was awesome. He was like talking about it. I was like, dude, I love this guy. He's so cool.
Yeah.
Shout out Isak.
Shout out Isak.
Hell yeah. Yeah, like I remember the first time, we decided to run backtracks, and it was like the first time like we had recorded our piece, so like we had them, so we're like, okay, let's put them in a show, and hearing all that shit, like, cause like we could design our set to like have these like, cause on the EP it had all these instrumental outros that like got produced like with us by the who's helping us, and it was like neat to like kill all the dead air. I'm like, oh, there's something happening. Like right when we finish the song, like it's playing a little like ambient thing. And I can talk, and it's not completely silent. It's not like, okay, all right, next song. So it was like really cool, like having like those moments. But like hearing it was insane. Like for the first time, especially those bass drops. I was like, where's that shit coming from?
That's another thing that Gamma joining really did well, because our in betweens were just like basically rap beats in between our songs. Nice. And I hated that. I hated that so much. We'd play like one of like an emotional song about death and suicide, and then the song's over and it's just like dun, and I'm like, yo, this is terrible.
Like, why am I crying and dancing right now?
So Gamma, it was so bad.
So bad. I hated it.
I hated that. And so Gamma was like, okay, let me make. So Gamma he learned how to do like all that stuff, and he made in betweens that were like more ambient, that fit the style of our content more. And then and what was awesome is that now our in betweens lead up to the next song. So he'll do like the melody but an octave lower to kind of like hint at like the song that's going to be played, which is really cool to us. But it's definitely like it adds a lot. So, and I think it's a lot better than just having a rap beat.
Dude, if you're in a band, like learn as many things as possible. Like don't just learn. I mean, yes, learn your instrument, please. But like, oh my God, please learn your instrument. But like, what was the name of it? Like, you know, don't put all your eggs in just one basket.
Yeah.
because it'll come in handy. Like, I didn't know how to use a DAW before coming into the band, and then I heard that the rap beat after the Suicide song, and I'm like,
nah,
bro,
I can't do that.
no, we could just finish and just like the crowd is gonna be like, oh, that's just crazy.
It's like emotional suicide song, and then the rap beat is like, don't kill yourself, you're too sexy.
Yo, you want to hear a sick trap song right now? Kill yourself. I got a sick beat for you, bro.
Yeah.
But I heard it and I was like, bro, I gotta come up with something. And I didn't have the money to pay for it. So I was like, let me just learn how to do it.
Yeah.
And I literally a free DAW and just free plugins. And I was like, all right, like I made this. And they're like, yo, this is sick. I was like, all right, let's do it then.
I think in any band, like that's a requirement. Like you gotta take on a bunch of skills. Like you have to learn how to
especially nowadays, everything is so DIY. But, you know, back when there was more money in the music industry, you had people who specialized in everything and you just hired them. But now it's just like so many more bands, less money in the industry. It's just you do it yourself, and that's just something that we take a lot of pride in and that we've like had to learn. And I think it sets us apart.
And you get a lot more control in everything, which is so cool. You know
That's
what I mean? Like,
big
you know,
one.
you have control of what like you want something to sound like, what you need it to be, when you want to do all this shit. You know what I mean? Like you could do it at home. I think like now it's a complete requirement for you to be able to know how to record yourself. Like it's like the most basic thing now. Like you can't get away with just like not be able to, at least demo scratch guitar something. Like something.
It's either that or you're paying $180 to a guy for a scratch track.
I always said on our first EP, I go, we got lucky that they let us pay per song because I sucked I go, we paid per song, and I was in doing vocals like for like a couple weeks, and I was like, we'll try again tomorrow, and didn't get shit done today. I'm like, I go, this guy hates me. I know it. I go, but damn, we signed a contract, dude. I'm sorry.
That is a great deal to me.
Yeah, I was just so nervous, and just like you know, and it's before like I paid attention to like how to warm up like my voice and like be ready to like studio ready. I was just like fucking balls to the wall, let's go, and and the importance of like maybe not fucking talking like a lot like right before, and I would always just come like right after work I used to work like in banking, and I would talk to people all fucking day, and I'm just like and then let's go to studio session. I'm like, bro, my voice is fucking out of it now, you know? And just like let's try it, and nothing would turn out right. But yeah, like the ability just to record like your own, like I think everybody, I think like, you know, ESOC with Instinct, like they track all of their stuff and they send it to like some dude in Australia to master it, you know what I mean? They've been working, and it's like I find that so fucking cool and fascinating that, dude, like you're recording this shit here and just send it out to some dude like you met over there, and it's been working out great.
Bro, Mystique, she's from like
she's in Australia.
Right?
Yeah, she's in Australia.
Yeah.
Damn.
So we were essentially
we just sent it to her, and then she added all the chorus and the strings and
straight up.
See, that's the cool thing of like with the internet and music. It's just like, dude, you can work with so many fucking people.
No, we've made backtracks from like Fiverr guys.
Oh really?
Yeah,
that's where those beats came from. Just Fiverr.
King of Beats.
That's the
dude. I mean,
King of Beats. Shout out King of Beats.
Shout out King of Beats. I forgot
Suicide Trap. Suicide Trap Beats.
But yeah, I mean, you know, learn as much as you can, and the things that you just can.
Yeah.
There are ways. You know, you don't have to break the bank either. You know, there's Fiverr out there now. You have. I mean, go to local shows and meet the people there, and a lot of like literally, there's so many talent. Like Dallas, especially.
There's so much talent.
It's a melting pot of just talented people. Yeah. That if you don't know talented people, it's because you don't want to know them. I'm like, bro,
they're everywhere. Like everywhere. Like shows are the easiest way because like there's everybody there has like again, if someone comes up to like lights and stuff like that, who does your lighting? We did, and then
we did it.
So here's the issue the only thing I have is like sometimes people will come up to you and ask you, let's say, for example, the lights, like how did you do it, and want you to tell them exactly everything like on how do you do it, and I'm like, to a degree you got to get to a point where like, because at this nowadays if you want to know something, it's on the fucking internet, like straight up.
One.
Like
the thing about lights in particular is it's a really niche thing. There's actually not that much about the lights.
I think you can find it a bit, but like there's got to be like an effort on the part of like whoever's at, instead of like, because I've had the instant, and I've had this on like, I've been on the not the receiving end. Like I remember like this, I always talk about fucking Zaylin from Disposition. So when I was like wanting to buy a camera, I asked, so I asked him, and he's like, you know what, you're better off looking it up yourself. And I remember being like, you're a dickhead. I was like, just help me out. And no, it just made me like want to go do my own research and stuff like that. Oh, okay, I get it now. You know what I mean? Because like now I know what particularly I need or whatever.
Yeah.
And if not, I was just gonna be asking him a bunch of questions all the time and never actually learn how to do the actual thing. So there's a bit of both. But like as far as like finding people to help you do fucking graphic design, videography, like photography, or you know, stuff with recording, producers. I go, you go to any show, like you'll find like a few handful of people.
Every band now has a photographer, and they're all killer. Like just going.
I remember going to a Haltom show, and Ethan was there taking photos. Yeah, I was like, oh shit! Yeah. I guess he knew that too.
Ethan does so much. Does shit everything. Like that. You know, now with. He's booking shows now with the merch. He's doing merch printing and signing all this stuff.
I have this guy on Facebook, and he added me on Facebook. And, you know, I open Facebook here and there for my family in Mexico. And you know, I'll see he is always asking, like, hey, how can I talk to people from the scene? How can I get into, like, you know, I'm a photographer or I'm a musician. Like, how can I get my services out there? And I'm like, bro, you're not going to get them here in Facebook. Like, Facebook is not real. Like, go to the show and meet the people there. And especially, here's the thing, like, networking is not just like, let me just meet you. It's like, let me meet somebody and you know, like, build a relationship rather than, like, let me get a job out of you. Because it's annoying. Like, I'm my job essentially is I'm a session drummer for other bands. And I can tell when somebody comes to me wanting something, you know, rather than like, yo, I'm a human, bro. Like, I don't...
Talk to me first.
Yeah, ask me how my day is going, you know, or something.
Take me to dinner.
Take me to dinner first, at least.
Come on, like,
and then we take all of our videographers out to lunch before we use them. Yep, that's very true.
That is very true.
I look like some drum slut. Like, hey,
man,
treat me nice, all right?
Free. I would say, before we move on from this, though, one thing that you say about the camera story is that's very true. Because I remember when I was trying to learn how to use synths and I asked a friend, he had the same synth I was using. So I just asked him, like, yo, how do I how do I input this thing to this thing? And he told me how to do it exactly. So I learned how to do it. And then later I was like, okay, but now how I do this to do that I wanted to do. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to get on how to use this in completely, like everything. And that helped me more because that moved me into other things. Yeah. Rather than just like, oh, how do you assign this key to that key? Yeah. Like, now I can tell you how to do anything you want in this here. Yeah. And then on this one too, because it's related to that, you know? Like, now you learn an entire field rather than just asking a question and getting the right answer. It's like, yeah, but if you dive deep, it'll help you more.
And now it's to the point, like, with that you know enough to, like, if you do get stuck somewhere and you go ask a question, you're not asking it from, like, the bottom base level. It's like, hey, I already did all this stuff, blah, blah. I just need help getting this stuff. And that's a lot easier for someone to help you along with. It's like, they know what the fuck they're doing. They're just having trouble here. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, that's a completely, like, different, like, reaction that you'll get. And it just, I mean, learning shit just takes time. You're not going to be an expert, like, right away. Like, it's going to take a lot of learning. I always take, like, this podcast, for example. Like, it started with... I was doing it like on my own with like a borrowed camera. I just happened to have a camera, so I was like, okay, we'll figure it out. Like, I didn't know how to set that shit up or anything. It was just like, boom, that records. And then like I was going to like I was everybody had a different mic. Like it was just normal condenser. Like, so it was like one SMB7. Yeah, that was just one of them. Everybody else just had like they all were mismatched, different colors and everything. They were completely different, like mismatched, like, and then like learning how to do all this stuff. And to where like it's progressed now, I'm like, oh, okay, like we're heading in the right direction. I mean, but it started off with like learning how to use what we had, and like you learn how to like progress and get better, and like how do you improve stuff.
The important thing is like you started it too, because a lot of people won't do things because they seem too hard. Yeah. Like, oh man, I want to start a podcast because I gotta get these 4 mics and then this camera and everything. I'm like, bro, if you genuinely want to do this, like, just do it. Like, for example, I want to do backing tracks, but I don't have the money for nice plugins, or I don't have the money for, like, Ableton, whatever. I'm like, bro, just go and search in the internet for free stuff and figure it out. And if it doesn't sound good, later on figure how to make it sound good, so you don't have to pay for it now.
You got to start somewhere. And normally the part where you'll start from, it's going to suck. Like, you're going to be bad. You have to be comfortable with being bad at something. something and keep doing it.
That's
you know
why I don't
what
play
mean?
guitar live. I'm comfortable with being
I used to be so awkward with in-betweens because we didn't have in-betweens and we didn't run click. So for my first show with the band at Curtain Club, in between the songs, I told Star Wars jokes.
What?
I was like,
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, so in between.
I need to hear one right now.
Okay, what was what? I said like 3, but I only remember one, and it was so bad. It was like, what did Luke Skywalker say when he tried to get with his sister? Hey, you better not lay a finger on her, or some shit like that. It was so bad.
I would have left.
How was that crowd reaction?
I don't even remember how the crowd.
I blocked it out. I blacked out.
It was Curtain Club. You were 20 feet on like above them, so it didn't really matter. Yeah, that stage at Curtain Club was
I didn't even know
that stage was huge, man.
Huge, and the
the
lights were amazing.
Yeah.
It was such a good venue. Yeah,
man. R.I.P. Curtain Club.
Yeah,
R.I.P. Curtain Club. I never got to be there, man.
No,
To be honest, I got into this scene until I joined the band because before that I was doing like other stuff non-related to what we're doing.
Before Third and Delaware, I was playing Ed Sheeran at weddings.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So I was
interesting.
I was playing a lot of gospel. And
That's why me and Gama have a lot of
really.
Yeah,
That's
my
okay.
first metal
Cool.
band.
Yeah, me and Gama have a
Gospel
lot
metal
of
weddings, and it's like Third and Delaware. Let's fuck shit up.
That's why we vibe a lot on like bridging that gap between consumer musician and like performer, you know, between like playing for weddings or learning a song in 3 days to play like last minute at like this fill-in show, or like entertaining a party and playing like, you know, an hour of, you know, whatever, Wonderwall or some shit, you know? So, like I did
this one.
Yeah.
Like, I know y'all know this one. Get the fuck up. That shit. No, that's Jumper. I just did the wrong song. That one's in that set too.
Oh my god.
But that was my music career before the band, and now it's just kind of evolved into
It's a funny thing. Like we've always loved this music, but we never
absolutely. We never had
I would always just play by myself. I would never like, let me go and be in a band. Like you know, it was like, no man, I'm doing this stuff like non-related to that, and I play it in my own time. But it's funny because now people, you know, say, oh, he's a metal drummer, and before that they're like, oh, he's a gospel drummer, he's a funk drummer, and now they look at it like, oh, he's a metal drummer. I'm like, bro, like I play everything, you know, it doesn't matter. Just But for him, whenever he told me like, I used to play just like for weddings,
and nursing homes and parties.
Really?
Like now you see him like screaming. I'm like, that's crazy. Like imagine you have your wedding and then you go see a show and this guy's like screaming on it. It would be
hell yeah, dude. When someone in the band gets married, dude, Third and Delaware gotta throw down. Yeah, that's an interesting transition. Both of those like are interesting transitions. Yeah. But like the idea of starting a band, like I think when you like are outside of like that realm and like and scene, it is a really like weird foreign concept, I think, to me. Because like I remember when like I started when I was like in high school, and it was just like, oh, we'll play like for our friends or whatever. But like the act of like, let's make it big or do something like that. Like I was just like, I just wanted to play. Honestly, I just wanted to sing. I didn't even want to like be in a heavy band. Yeah. I just like wanted to sing in a band. And I was like, I don't know how to scream at all. And I like what I did was like that band was already formed. They did have a vocalist, and they would practice. So I was just like, I just want to like hang out. So I would hang out at their practices, and then their vocalist was not showing up. And I'm like, I know these songs back and forth. Like the rhythm, there was no vocals written because the singer was never around long enough to sing. So like I wrote something. And I'm like, you know what? The mic's already set up. And, like he didn't show up. Like, let me show you this. Terrible. It was a terrible song, but they were just like, it's fucking awesome. Like, we want to like, it's like we'll have 2 vocalists, and then eventually like I took the other guy. but I mean, it just like progressed that way, and then I learned, and I always say like I didn't get good till like the band like broke up, because like I used to always write, you know what I mean? I used to always write really hard stuff to sing that I couldn't sing like consistently.
Same.
And I'm like
the song,
I'll figure it out. Like
the song coming out on the 24th.
24th.
Yeah, that's the hardest song that I do vocally.
Like vocally?
And every time I play it live, I just roll the dice. Because the chorus is so high. It's
like, we're going to see. How am I feeling right? And then I would really be like right before like the big note would hit, and I'm like, yeah. He's like, I feel good about it. And then like I would do it. And then it's like, oh, I shouldn't have felt good about it. Like that wasn't it, or like whatever. And there was sometimes where I would get hit. I'm like, so yeah, that rolling the dice feeling. I've definitely had that. But like, it's funny because the last show we played, I hit everything.
You killed it.
Yeah, and I'm like, I hate this so much. Like, I was like, I finally like can do everything like really easily. And then we did that with like 3 practices. We weren't even supposed to play that. So this was like we threw an event last year called the 420 Takedown, and one of the bands.
Which one is this band? Like, what was the name?
Oh, Under Oblivion is the name.
Under
of the band.
Oblivion.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
So
yeah.
that is no longer.
That's not. Yeah, that was our last show. Yeah. But yeah, that we weren't supposed to play that. I think like a band drop, and I made the joke, and I'm like, oh, we can just fill in, and then whatever. And then 2 bands drop, and I'm like, oh fuck, I think we have to fill in. So we had like 3 practices and played, and it was funny because we hadn't played in so long that like we got new fans at that show, and people were like, when's the next show? And I'm like, I got bad news for you. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're
like,
not.
We're not. Like, don't get attached. I hope you don't have abandonment issues because we gone. Like,
I don't know, man, but it's funny. Like, I remember when I had the second, I think, practice with y'all.
Yeah.
You mentioned like, I remember he mentioned Haunted Dinosaur. He mentioned Third String. He mentioned Bryce Butler, and I had no idea what none of that was. I'm like, dude, like, yeah, like, hopefully, like, we get to play, like, So What, and that's from Third String, and I'm like, like, who's Third String? What's a So What? Like, who's Bryce Butler? Dude, Bryce Butler. Like, he's playing with like Shadow of Intent, and I was like, so that's how.
Explain this to me.
I was foreign, bro. Like, I had no idea nothing of these scenes.
All you knew was Architects. Holy hell!
I knew the bands that I liked. You know,
Yeah.
I was like, yo, I like Architects. I like, you know, this
Bring Me
progressive
In.
stuff and all that. Bring Me the Horizon. But, you know, you mentioned, I mean, you know, Dispositions or like big local bands, and I was like, you know,
it's
never
a
really got
weird
into
like
that, yeah.
again, and it's I've been so close to it for forever that I don't realize that that's the way people like outside of the scene react to it. So like when we started NoiseROT, I'm like, I want to draw as much attention to like those bands to people. So like when we started the podcast, initially it was just supposed to be to basically get people to go to a festival with it, because like the Chill Sounds and Breakdowns festival, that's what that was. And my idea was like, I go, dude, what if I was super into podcasting, so I was like, what if I just like run a podcast? We'll interview like 6 bands, you know, leading up to the festival, and it'll promote, you know, the festival. And I'm like, okay, cool. And I told that we had 6 weeks before the fest, and then I promised to do something when I had no fucking idea how to do it, like every part of it. And I'm like, oh shit, okay. And I procrastinated. So the last 2 weeks is when I like was like, oh fuck, I promised I'd do this. So I did 6 podcasts in 2 weeks, and only 3 of them were I think at my apartment. All the other ones I had to drive to people's houses to do it, because I was trying to make it as convenient as possible. Yeah. I'm like, just so it would get done. Like Ethan from this position was one I was in like in his house, and it's just and it's me nervous as fuck because it's just me like setting up everything. I was like, I hope everything fucking works. I hope everything fucking works, because I was just learning how to do everything, and I'm like, please work. And I'm like, okay. So I was rolling the dice on that, like again on everything. And then it just got so fun that I was like, I go, this is cool. And I feel like I'm good at it. I go, what if I go out, let me just do every band that played Chill Sounds, you know, the festival, and get them. And after that, I'm like, no, man, I feel like this is something. I go, it's a way, again, like to people from outside who are just maybe learning about bands or wanting to like know a little bit more about like, oh, they see you play live. Let's like, how do they get to know them as people? You know what I mean? Because like the most you get from people at shows, you know, like the brief conversations you can have with people at shows, but it's like you're loading in, loading out, and managing your merch table, doing all this stuff. So it's not the biggest thing. So it's a really, for me, it's like I want to create a space where you can come in, you can, you know, talk about, you know, music. People get a little more in depth detail, but like it brings more attention to like these really talented like bands and even businesses. You know, like before you guys were here today, like I had a company called Freaky Ferments that's like a hot sauce company out of Fort Worth. Yeah, so like stuff like that. You know what I mean? I go, this dope shit where you live, like around, like I said, I consider it all DFW, like that area. I'm like, and there's really like cool like music, musicians, like and artists and all this stuff that's like right around the corner, and I just like want to highlight as much as possible.
Yeah,
that's really dope.
Cool. I think that's something that me and Gama talk a lot about too, is just how like open, or I guess like how out there everything is now. Like a lot of the metal scene is just humble now. Like you know the life of, you know, like Rory of Dayseeker. You know, he's a fucking vision technician. You know, he works at Lens Crafters. You know, like, you know all this. You know all these people's lives. You know, like
man. He's always got dope frames.
Yeah, he does. He got dope frames. He really does though. So it's just like,
now we know how Rory got his
now we know how. Yeah. So like you just know so much about all of these people, and I think that's something that metal as a whole kind of embodies now. But then there's bands, you know, you don't have that Slipknot or 80s rock star kind of obscurity anymore. Yeah. But then you have like Sleep Token, they're all in masks. Aviana, they're all in masks. Yeah. And then, you know, you have these little niche bands of like obscurity. You don't know anything about anyone in the band. And like you don't even, for Sleep Token, you don't even see anyone in the band. They're all like, you know, all in all black and masks, right? Yeah. So it's like, so there's like this balance, or there's like this one or the other of like being humble, like sharing things, and like, you know, being open about your life and like how you do things and your process and stuff like that. And then there's like that obscurity that maybe some people miss from, you know, music in the old days.
Yeah, it is weird because like now, I mean, it's weird with like social media and everything. It's like people started being more open. Yeah, I like, but then it got to like people manipulating on like what they want you to think like they are kind of thing. So that type of content. Yeah. That's why with this, I'm like, let's just like not overproduce anything. I go, let's just fucking hear and talk. That's why like when I tell everybody, I'm like, I go, you can talk about music. I go, you can also not. Like we can talk about whatever. You know what I mean? Because I want it to be like just like a human interaction. Because my whole goal is to better the community. Like better like this like. And again, like more people are being humble about it. Like I said, the hardcore community is one that I love. Like so, I was intimidated forever. Honestly, I was like, these guys aren't gonna like me. Like I was like, I'm not like tough enough for this crowd or whatever. And it's some of the most like passionate, loving people that I've ever met. Like you know, and it's really cool. And just the music community to me, like from being in it or just being around in shows, I've had such a good experience with it, with like meeting people and like friendships that I have to this day that are like years old from like someone that I met at a show, you know what I mean, or that I played with and all this stuff, and that we still see each other. And it's like, you know, talk. It's a really cool thing to have.
It's definitely like a community, and that's what I'm telling you. Like, if you don't know like talented people, if you're in the scene and you don't know talented people, it's because you don't want to. Like, play any, like for example, any of the shows that we've played. I told Richie, like, make the point of like meeting at least somebody from the other bands at least once. You know, like just say hi to them at the very, very least. And a lot of those guys, like I remember the show that you guys, NoiseROT was it, the Dispositions one?
At the original?
Yeah. That's where I met Isaac. And now Isaac and me are in a band. So it's
so you're the new project that Isaac's doing.
Yeah. Atrophy, essentially, that's where, you know.
Y'all are debuting your live show at one of ours.
Yeah. That's going to be cool. But, anyways, you know, I met him there. Like, we were talking, and then he just came and asked us about the lights. And then we just picked it up from there, and then every time we see each other, you know, like, hey, what's up? And you know, so that's one. I met Ethan there because, you know, Dispositions. I met Jay from Sins Masada too there. Nice. So every time I say, I'm like, yo, homie, I gotta go see him.
And that's all it takes. You know, it takes a few. A high here. Next time, okay, I'm more comfortable now. I can approach them. I go, we already broke the ice over there. I'm not worried anymore. Talk a little bit more. Then you start like realizing which people like you vibe with and who are you talking to more. But it is, and I feel like if people aren't used to it or talking to people stepping out of that shell, it's a little weird. And I feel like that because like people assume like when they'll watch the podcast and stuff like that. I was like, oh, you're really like sociable and stuff. I go, when I'm here, I go, I'm in my house. I go, I'm in like my you know environment. When I step outside, like it gets a little difficult. So I've been like consciously making the effort to be like, if I've seen you and we've said hi before, I need to go up and say hi again just to keep reinforcing because like. In my head, I'm like, oh, they don't want to talk to me. But then I'm like, oh, they know that we know each other. And if I don't go up, like, they're probably thinking the same thing. It's like, oh, they don't want to fucking talk to me anymore. So I had to make conscious efforts. Like, if I see people, I'm like, oh, yeah, keep talking to me. Because, like, I've been introduced to so many people from just, like, going up and saying hi to one person. And then like, oh, like, hey, you know this person? I'm like, no. Like, okay. Like, then we talk and blah, blah, blah. And
I met Edward and Robert Ballista. I met them like that because they're friends. Like they're friends. I think they were high school friends with a really close friend of mine, and we were at So What, and he's like, yo, like I know Robert, and then Robert like, yo, this is Edward, like from Ballista. Like, yo, pretty sick. Right. And so now every time I see him, you know, Robert is a homie for sure. Yeah. And so every time I see him, you know, you say hi to him. But before I it leaves my mind, it's just, this is a tip. Because I struggle with that too. I'm always like, yo, I don't want to go and like, you know, bother somebody or feel like I'm going to get rejected or something. Talk about gear. Like if you're a musician, me as a drummer, the first thing I notice is, what's snare using? What cymbals using? It's instant like conversation. Yeah. Because it's like, what do you like? What do you not like? What are you into? What kind of, you know, how do you play without even seeing you play? I know how you're going to play because it's like, oh, you're playing this kind of cymbals, you know, you play like this way or whatever. And then eventually like, what's your name? You know, like, hey, what do you like? Yeah. But then again, don't forget, don't do it expecting something back. Just meet people.
Just meet people. Yeah. It's that genuine connection. You know what I mean? Like
have
people,
a genuine connection.
Because people will sniff it out if you're like, you need something from me. You know what I mean? Like, or you want like something from me. So, like if most of my interactions like are just like greeting people, saying hi, or whatever, and then like if this is my second time seeing you or something like that, or even like musicians I see around town that I've met, and like if I want to like ask them to do this, like it's probably a few like meetings that we have, and I want to make sure that I like have seen them play and like I know like what I'm like talking about with them. It's not just like, oh, like, you know, let me get you on here because I need people to be on here, and I'm like. And I was like, and luckily I didn't struggle with that at all because like I knew so many fucking people, you know what I mean? So with having people come on here, I was like, oh, like I know a bunch of people, and then I got less scared of having people that I like, oh, we hadn't have a like this is our first conversation like full like here, you know what I mean? And so I stopped being scared of that. I'm like, I go, dude, like because there's anybody who's passionate about something, that's the best conversations to have. And in this case, I mean, everybody coming in here is like passionate about what they do, and it's just for me like there's times where I'll just like sit here and I'm just listening. I'm like, yeah, just fucking tell me it all, bro. Like I want to hear this shit. Like it's a great way to, you know, build a relationship, but it's just that one step and like, yeah, let me talk, take an actual interest in something. And that's why like with bands, you know what I mean? With bands and performances, I always like I think when I was younger, I say this so much, but I was like, I was really like elitist about what I liked. And I was like, nah, I'm not gonna like, I don't like this band or I don't like this stuff. But now I'm like, I find something that I like in every fucking like thing that I see. And that's what I'll talk about with like that person. Yeah. You know, like, oh, this was like what because that's my genuine reaction. Like, this is what I really love about like this band or this performance or this whatever. You know what I mean? And that's how to make like genuine connections with people and stuff that you know, stuff that you want to know about. And be curious, but it's so important just to make friends like out here.
Yeah, like if you, I mean, it's like everything. If you really just want a job out of somebody, I'm like, don't even try. It feels you can feel it. Yeah. I think you can. I feel like we all can relate to somebody just, you know, coming at you and kind of like wanting something back and like, hey, like. You're this guy from doing this or whatever. And it's like, yeah, like, what do you want? You know?
What do you want? I just fucking spell it. What do you want?
Yeah, it's like, bro, ask me
how do you do your lights? What do you buy? What exactly do you buy to do your lights?
Wait, you calling out Isak right now? No, just kidding.
No. He didn't do it. He asked us
band war, band beef. No, just kidding.
He bought his dinner first. No, he I remember we were talking outside of the venue, and he just comes and like, how do you guys write? That's not actually how we wrote music first, because he was curious, you know, like between how he thought everybody did it, and like, turns out everybody does it different. And then eventually we started talking about the light show, because we told him like, we run a click because we have lights, and they're like, so how do y'all do that? So it came out organically. You know? That's what I mean. Like, if you start a conversation normally,
I remember he was interested on how like we actually have writing sessions and then, like dedicated writing sessions and then dedicated like rehearsal, because we have to make sure the lights work. We have to make sure that we're playing, you know, like everything on time. We have to make sure the in-betweens sound good. And we have to make sure all of our in-ears are dialed in, that nothing's too loud for any of us. Yeah. So like we have dedicated rehearsrsal time, and then we have dedicated writing time, and then we have just regular hangouts.
But see, that's a great example. Like he didn't come in like, hey, can you tell me how to do that? Like, can you not even, I think asking for help is fine. but I think more of like, can you do this for me? Rather, you know, like you, there's a difference between like, can you help me and can you do this for me? You know, and he for sure he was just curious about wanting to know how we did things, and I'm like, that's cool. Like, you know, we're in common because we also asked him like, how do you do it? And the conversation later with the like thing, like it came up by itself. We didn't have to like, hey, so you know, that awkward like. This is what I'm here for, so let me ask it, you know.
Let me get out of the way. I really don't want to talk to you. I just want to get to this. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what I mean. Yeah. I mean, do you promote the show? So or
I'm part. Yeah, we do show promotion, and so all like in our group I do most of like the content. So if we like make it, like we've like been making videos and stuff like that just to promote stuff. So that's all the stuff that I
y'all
make.
Are great with that because like, a lot of promoters they just like I'm like. Promoting, you know, promoting, like
it's part of the job. You know,
you kind of have to promote your show, and they're kind of like, I'm putting the show, you go and promote it. And I'm like, I think it's a joint effort. We're like, we have to promote our band, but you have to promote this show too. So I think that you guys are great doing that because I saw the videos. I was like, wow, you actually promote the show like a promoter.
It's such a like simple concept, and I think coming from like all of us, everybody has been a musician or you know, been going to shows or whatever. Like we know what it felt like to receive like no support like from like your promoter. Even something as simple as like getting set times, like when do I need to be here type of shit. I go, dude, I remember like being told day of, you know what I mean? I have one of my friends actually told me recently, like one of their bands got told at 2 to load in at 3. And they're like,
"Oh, that happened to me a lot."
I was like, "That's not fucking happening." It's like, what the fuck? Like, you know, it's like people work, like people that got jobs or whatever, or like, you know, if you would have told us the time, then people can make accommodations or whatever, or like, but they're like, no. But I'm like, yeah, shit like that's wild to me. You know what I mean? Like simple things like that, and then just making the effort to actually promote shit. You know what I mean? Like, hey, like. And we do our best when we have enough time to like try to make songs to promote like how like, you know, what songs are like the band's playing, like, oh, get familiar with this band before you go see them, like type of shit like that is what I want to work a little harder to get a little bit more.
Hey, but when I say like, I don't mean just promoting, like I don't want to sound like I'm just taking shots at promoters. Like this is also for bands, bro. Like if you're in a band, you have to promote your band.
It's the same thing. Yeah.
You're a businessman. You have, if you're not promoting your band and you expect the promoter to promote you, it's you know, so you're doing it wrong.
On our side, like I try to make as much stuff to let like bands just share. Yeah. I'm like, because I get it, you know, like everyone's busy. This shit takes time, you know, like you don't maybe have access to equipment to make your own content. Don't know how. Like I didn't know how like even just people being on camera, like how like that's weird for some people. I've done it so long that I don't. It's not a weird thing for me to do to like sit there and record videos and like do take after take and do my lines or whatever I'm doing, like figure it out. I've never like I don't struggle with that anymore. But like I realized like, oh, that's not as easy accessible to me. So it's like I'll make stuff. It's like. I go, but then I'll make stuff and then have people like not share it. And I'm like, dude, I was like, I already made it for you. Like, just share it. And I was like, I'm trying to help, you know, your show. You know, the more people come out to your show, you know, the better time like you're gonna have.
It's a joint, like everybody benefits each other.
No one's against each other. Go at the end of the day, like we're just trying to have a badass show. You know what I mean? Like we're just trying to have an entertaining show. I want you to be able to play for a full room to people that are gonna, you know, love what they see and then interact with y'all and create new fans. And for me, I just like want to create shows in the community where people like go out and have a good time with fucking music. Like I want that feeling of like just going to a show, just to go to a show, to be more commonplace. You know what I mean? Okay. To like, hey, night, what are we doing like this weekend? Let's go fucking check out some music. Like that's my reason for like end goal, like in reason to make that a little bit more commonplace.
That's what our guitarist Sean would always talk about. It's like, oh, Deep Ellum used to be this place where you like. You just kind of walked around, and then if you heard a show, you paid $5 and you go in and see the show. And and you were talking about how it's like a completely different.
It is, yeah. It used to have that vibe a lot. I know, like Three Links is still out there, which I enjoy because Three Links is the one that opens up and you can see the band from the street. So I used to love that and be like, oh, I fucking love that. I love small rooms and like things like that just because it wows out. It's just such a nice time.
More intimate.
Yeah. But you guys, right before we wrap this up, you guys have a song dropping, you said.
Yeah, so we have our second single, Mayflower, dropping February 24th. And then we are going on a weekend run to Mississippi, Louisiana, and Tennessee at the end of this month. So I think literally during our run is when the single comes out. I think.
I'm pretty sure, yeah. And then we have the Norma.
And
we
then
are playing with Norma Jean.
And then on March 1st, we are
Buy tickets with us, please.
We are opening for the Norma Jean and Fire from the Gods. I don't know how the.
Don't question it. Already happened.
It don't matter how. We don't know how, but it's gonna be great.
We're playing. Yeah, they're those are legends.
Sick.
Yep.
You guys are doing some cool shit. I can't wait to hear the new single and check them out at any. If you're in any one of those places that are going on tour, come out and see them. But for sure, get your Norma Jean tickets from these guys. All right. But I want to appreciate you guys taking the time out to.
Thank
come
you
out
so much
today.
for having us.
Absolutely, you guys are fucking. Yeah,
That was
fun. Yeah. I'm sure y'all will be back, man. I'm sure. It's just a fun time. You're always welcome back. But thank you guys for listening, watching. This has been episode 55 with Third and Delaware. We will talk and see you guys next time.